How are tanks feeling for you this season after all the nerfs and now we have to heal them a little bit? They need a little bit of help, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, how does that feel for you? Did you enjoy the changes? Do you have problems healing them, or it's irrelevant to you?
Well, I know things have been changed and you can definitely see it, you can definitely feel it, but I also kind of take the stance of just because it's different and harder, it's still not impossible, so there are ways to still do it, and it's pushed me to kind of improve my UI and make sure I coordinate with my tank more, and I like that. I like the difficulty, I like the challenge, but we're in this position, when we're running a 17, if you have one global missed, it can cause a death. And I don't necessarily think that's too much of a problem, but in 17's one death means the key is over. And I think that's too big of a consequence. So personally, I kind of like the challenge. It's pushed me to build a stronger UI, but I think having one miss global and a tank dying and losing a key, I kind of think that's too big of a consequence. So I'm not sure a solution to that, but yeah.
Oh, here's my take on this. If you're running extremely high keys, and I don't know if 17s are there because I'm not at that level yet, but I know people are timing 20s, they're trying
Yeah.
21s, right? So
Hmm.
if you're pushing world first keys, I think what you're saying, it kind of makes sense. Like if you make one mistake plus 21, you're dead. Okay.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can take
Hmm.
this, but what you just said, you miss one global, people start dying, you wipe your key. I think this becomes true much lower in the chain. Like this is true for 12s, this is true for 13s. Because obviously you're not playing with the best players there, so your DPS
Hmm.
is a little bit lower, and the timer is something to pay attention to. So
Yeah.
even in like a plus 13, if a big AOE happens, and it doesn't have to be disc priest. I've talked about this before, but in this keys, every healer to me starts to feel like disc because in disc when the damage is coming, you have to prepare, right? And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
when the damage comes, you press one button, everybody's healed. But if you're late and you're not prepared and you miss one global, basically everybody dies. And it kind of
Yeah.
it starts to feel like that for every healer because the damage checks and the healer checks are so huge that missing one global, somebody dies, you wipe. And I
Yeah.
think it's way too early for that to be true for like 12s and 13s. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's a very different system that we have today that we've had in the past, and I think a part of it is just the shock of going to something so different. I do think potentially it's all been overtuned, it's been made a little bit too hard, but in the same breath, that was something the community asked for. So it's like, now they've given us what we've asked for, and now we're complaining that it's too hard. And I've talked about it with my group and my friends. I don't know a solution to this, but they kind of started to approach this subject in keys that are sub 12. They made that change where your key doesn't deplete below a 12. Well, what about us that are in 17s?
Yeah.
We would like a bone thrown our way because ours is harder. And something I would love to see is also wishful thinking is just having like one do-over per week per tune. And I think this would promote learning, this would promote repetition. For example, if we know we have a do-over, we might run the key all the way through just for the practice. And that is something that I've always kind of just been that type of person where I just practice, practice, practice. I think that's how you find success, repetitions, muscle memory. And when we don't have a chance to do something again, we're completely losing that chance to better ourselves. And I have to think, like I was saying before, that will lead to retention. That will lead to people feeling successful. That will people lead to people feeling like they're getting somewhere. And it's just having one global mist, meaning the key is over. I just think is a little too punishing.
Yeah, and then you have to spend so much time farming the same key again so you can try again. It's
Yep.
way too punishing. Yeah,
Mhm.
we were actually talking about this with Saucy J, but um, the 12s not depleting affects a very, very, very small percentage of the whole player base because
Mhm.
you are at some point going to be progressing 12s, but before that, you're not once you get
Mhm.
there. And then that's a level that you kind of get past relatively quickly, right? If you manage to
Mhm.
get there. So
Mhm.
this affects very few people for a very small period of time. And then there's nothing for everybody else. So
Mhm.
maybe if keys had like lives or something, is kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if
Yeah.
keys ever don't deplete, I don't think that's gonna be good.
Right.
Because we played on tournament realms, I guess, and that feeling of just farming everything like a raid in Mythic Plus is it's
Yeah.
not good. But maybe you have like 1 or 2 lives or something like that, then that could make a lot of difference.
Yeah, they could even maybe turn it into a currency. It's something that you earn throughout
Yeah,
the week. You get 1 mulligan. I would love to see that. Um, but yeah, they proposed a solution for those under 12, but, I want I want a do-over too.
yeah, exactly. And I think we had this exact same take. What if you just decide, okay, I have this tokens or whatever, and I decide, okay, I'm gonna insert it in my keys, so whatever happens, it's not gonna deplete, and those will be limited, of course. So yeah, that's something to think about.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it would have to be a very limited resource, but yeah, something I would love to see.